So I had so many portraits that I knew that those were going to be like the foundation of the book. Then I had the landscapes, and then I had the deities. And I had to figure out a way to put it all together. And as I heard like Raghunath say here in the podcast so many times, like about his music and most of his things, like, oh, I think it wasn't me doing it. This is one of those things. I think it was,
Mm,
I was, there was some force behind me just directing me and showing me the way very
Sure.
naturally. I didn't struggle at all to put it all together, and very quickly I knew that this was the way, this was how it should be presented, and I just followed like my intuition, and it's here. I'm so happy.
That's the Krishna flow of it all.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily spiritual podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Krishna Bhakti. Welcome to the show. This is episode 1483. Today is December 4th, 2024. It's Walk on Wednesday today.
So much information with us now.
There's a lot of information that comes out of my mouth as soon as, but you know what? It's sort of nice too. People are like, okay, this is the date, this is the time, this is the episode. Now I'm ready to go. Where are we? Some people are just waking up to this show. They need that information.
I get it. It's important.
All right. So we got Kostuba live in Mayapur, and we got to walk on Wednesday. Before we bring him on, we got Miss Mara to give us some holiday announcements.
Holiday announcements. We've got in-person and Zoom Bhakti Recovery Group meeting at the Bhakti Garden in Philadelphia tonight, 7 to 8 p.m. Also, last chance, join Wisdom of the Sages at the beautiful Govardhan Eco Village.
Last chance. This is it.
Light,
Join us.
Yeah, Light on Wisdom training, January 12th through 24th. You can go to wisdomofthesages.com to learn more and sign up.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we just landed here, and then I'm going to Brazil next week, and then we're going back to India. Gotta get ready. And the holidays somewhere in between. It's like go, 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 go. Except for Kostuba. He's just resting there in Mayapur, floating around on a magic carpet. What's going on?
What's going on is, I want to thank, there's such a flood of nice messages for my mother, prayers for my mother. All kind of people all over the place. People in on the German farm where there's an Ashringa temple, the priest there did a thing,
Did a puja?
Indrajumna Swami, Vaishesh Guru, Janavi's doing a kirtan, so many people, so many other people, just all hundreds of people. I've really felt like, my goodness, my mother's like really being taken care of.
You know what? You get a bunch of Vaishnavas praying like that for your mom. That soul is like
hundreds.
changing directions right now. Like,
I know, exactly. It's like you go one way and getting diverted. It was like 1,000 people praying for more,
If I die, I want the entire, you better post on Instagram, all social media accounts, let it go viral, pray for Raghunath. And then as I'm descending to the lower regions, maybe some force will bring him somewhere higher.
It talks about that in Mahabharata, right? Wasn't there someone was going one direction, they kind of turned around, and then I think they saw Maharaj Shivi was just like blasting past everyone. Right.
Well, your mom is, you are loved, and your mom's getting a lot of credit because she rendered a lot of service to you.
It's because today I had the chance to go through all of the messages, and I'm very, very, very grateful to everyone. Thank you.
Parents do a lot. Parents do a lot. It never ends. Anyway.
All right. This is gonna be a special walk on Wednesday today, right? Because it's like
we got a very special friend here.
On.
We want to keep them on, yeah. It's a walk on Wednesday that we just might let it go longer because we like this guy. Welcome to the show, Mr. Sega. How are you?
Thank you so much. First of all, let me pay my respectful obeisances to all of you, and a big thank you to you, Raghunath, and Kostuba and Mara for this great service that you guys do with this podcast. It's amazing.
Sega's
you,
live
Sega.
in Lisbon, right? You live in
Yeah.
Lisbon or Porto?
No, Lisbon.
Okay, Lisbon. And you're probably one of the early adapters of Wisdom of the Sages. I think it was before it was Wisdom of the Sages, when it was Super Soul Sacred Sangha. Is that correct?
Exactly. I joined June 2019.
19.
June 2019. Okay, we got to find out who's the oldest. Who's the
Mara.
have special awards. Well, Mara is, that's for sure. So June. So and what's your story? Why don't you just tell a story how you and I know each other and how you got into Bhakti? Because
Maybe you can just mention the book first, and then we can, just so that people know the theme here.
Got it. So I have my new book here,
whoa,
Vrindavan.
that's
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's beautiful. I'm so happy with the end result. Like, it's amazing. Raghunath is going to get one today for sure. It was supposed to be there yesterday, but UPS, but I'm really happy with this. Like, it's incredible. The book, I'm going to share the story, how I came to this book. But it's here. It's a totally like self-published thing. I did all myself. I'm just gonna sell it online. I did a big cartel, and I'll share on the chat board like the link.
If you can't see
it's a-
it, because a lot of people just are listening, it's a big, beautiful coffee table book of Vrindavan,
Yes.
It's a book of photography.
a book of
Book
photography.
photography. It has more than 200 images. It has a beautiful foreword written by Raghunath, amazing texts by Kastuba, Paramananda, and Leela, because she was my guide on this trip, and yeah, and the rest is just images of this beautiful, mystical, magical place, Vrindavan. Yeah.
Definitely a book worth getting. But so Raghunath, why don't you start him off now? Now that we know that the book is called Vrindavan, yeah?
Yes, Vrindavan.
All right. All right. I was trying to think. I was talking to you on the phone. I was like, how did I even meet you? I can't even remember how we met, rather.
I gotta tell a little story before so we can get how we met, because for real, me being here now, it's because Youth of Today. That's the truth. Uh, Youth of Today influenced my early hardcore bands here in Portugal.
That was Raghunath's first band, Youth of Today.
Exactly. So I'm a musician too, and I became a vegan straight edge kid just because Youth of Today just influenced all of us, me and
When
my
was
friends.
that?
This was around 92, 93.
Wow.
So through that, I became a musician, and I did hardcore music for 10 years here in Lisbon. I used to have a band called Xacto, which in English,
Which is Portuguese for exacto, but they
yeah,
pronounce their X like a she.
yes,
Because for years
exactly.
people would say, yeah, exacto. I was like, what the hell is exacto? It's exacto.
Exactly. So we were the equivalent of Youth of Today here in Lisbon, like for Portuguese people. Like, we had shows every weekend,
They were
like
huge. They were huge.
100 kids the show's packed. Everyone was vegetarian, straight edge. It was a solid community. It was amazing. Like, growing up like that, it was fantastic.
Did it
And
freak you out when I left Youth of Today and became a devotee? Was that freaky if all those people were into Youth of Today, did it freak them all out, or were they like, nah, it's cool?
no, for me, it wasn't, because when I started to listen to Shelter, I was like, I like this music,
Right.
The lyrics didn't like influence me back then in any way. For me, it was like the same people doing hardcore music that I liked, so
Right.
I just joined in, and for me, I never had like this prejudice around spirituality or something like that. So I didn't.
You weren't for it, you weren't against it. It was you're just
Yeah,
happy
you
with
were
the music.
neutral.
Yeah, I was neutral. And then, so throughout those years, my life was just a hardcore kid playing music, like being a vegan and very active actually. And so, in 1999, we met for real because Raghunath came to Europe with his band back then, Better Than 1,000. And Shizacto here, my band, we put out a tour in Portugal with them. So we spent almost like, it was almost like 2 weeks together.
Yeah,
We played like
yeah.
five
That
or
was
six
great.
shows. And it
That
was
was great.
amazing. Like for me, it was like I'm playing with my childhood heroes, like,
Mm.
I respected so much all the musicians in this band.
They had
And
a really tight woven scene, tons of friends. We realized we felt like we entered into a whole big community. And then every show we played, they were with us, and all their fans followed us, and it was a real substantial scene there in Portugal.
yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. And then uh, next year, Shelter came to play on in Porto, and like
Porto.
me and my friends, we rented like this bus. We went to go to the show. We met you guys backstage, and that was like the first time I met Paramananda. But then, like after that, we kind of lost each other because there was no social media back then. No, people
Sure.
kept in touch. And I think like Youth of Today came to play Lisbon around like 20, I don't know, 2010 or something
I
like
can't
that.
remember, some reunion thing.
Yeah, and I was there, we spoke, and it was like a reconnection. But then we lost track of you again, and then social media kept us again connected. And I started to follow you on Instagram, and that's when like I started to get into this the spirituality, because one day you were talking about before the meeting begins, that you would be like with Mara, like holding the phone recording for an Instagram live. And
Yeah.
that's when one day I saw this, you being live on Instagram 9 a.m. Portugal, which meant like 5 a.m. in the US. I'm like, this guy is like 5 a.m. What the hell is he talking? 5 a.m. What's going on? And then I started to listen, and I'm like, okay, this interests me. Like I started
We
to,
were ready for it somehow. This
It takes
openness.
some type of ripening, to have it make also your good friend had committed suicide. That
yes,
probably, I think when things like that happen, he was big part of the scene. He was a vegetarian or a vegan.
yeah.
And when things like that happen, those tragedies, then the reality of material existence sort of like it's right in your face.
It's true. It was like 2019 for me, like it was a year that I was trying to search for something that I
Mm,
didn't know what. I had become a father 2 years before. I was
mm.
playing in this rock and roll band, like this big Portuguese rock and roll band. Like we toured Europe, we would play all over the world. But I was
All right,
like,
so that was the beginning right there. You heard something transcendental, it resonated with you, and then you just started listening on a regular basis, and then we became a podcast. And
exactly.
then somehow you've just sort of crossed that threshold. You say, I believe in this.
Yeah, I think one trigger for me to get here was that I went to learn transcendental meditation, which is a practice that I still do, and
TM, yeah.
yeah, and it's amazing. Like I think that actually really changed my life and brought me to this. Like it opened my eyes and my spectrum for to receive all this
Mm,
information and try and understand it. Yeah.
mm.
And yeah, so I started to listen to the podcast. Like I became like a regular, like all every day I will listen. Lately, I've been off because I'm teaching classes on photography, which land usually at the same time as the podcast. But I just watch the YouTube later, and it's amazing.
All right. Well, let's talk about your book. And what drew you to do it? It's pretty inspiring that you got a talent and you're going to go pursue your talent, and you've been listening to the podcast and you're like, you know what? I'm good at something. Why not use, instead of taking a picture of like building or streets or bowls of fruit or something, you're like, I want to go and glorify Krishna and the devotees. And what got you on the plane? I didn't know anything about it until you were doing it, really.
Yeah.
What was that big impetus, and yeah, and tell us about that journey.
That I have to say and pay respects to the one of the biggest like supporters of the idea since day one, which is Paramananda and his sage group. So I joined like one of his first sage groups, and because of my schedule, I could only get like on Paramananda's sage group. So I did three like in a row, and the first one, like there was one day that we were talking about our duty here, like what we do, and the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, and how Arjuna had to do his duty although he didn't want to.
Mm.
And I always like I never thought about it before, but back then I started to think, look, what I do, like I don't change anybody's lives. Like I do fashion and advertising photography. Like okay, I take pictures, they pay me, and that's it. And most of it is very shallow, you know.
Mm.
And but I'm like, I don't know how to do anything else. I know how to take pictures. I'm a filmmaker and I'm a musician. And what could I do to uh, do something for the community, like to improve people's lives? And then the idea just started to brew in my head, like, what if I would go to Vrindavan and take beautiful pictures and turn it into a book? Because I always wanted to do a photo book, but never had like a really like awesome subject. Like I'm going to put this in a book, you know, like because my fashion photography or advertising photography, like it's not a good subject for a book. So I started to think about that, and I mentioned that on the Sage group, and Paramananda was like, "Yeah, you got to do that," you know.
I can see
There you
Parmananda right
go.
now.
And
It's like,
Sega, that's a really great idea. You got to do that, man. You got to do that. And
that must
then
have been very exciting. Buying a ticket to Vrindavan, getting Leela, who's been on the show many times, who's like maybe one of the best tour guides of Vrindavan ever,
Yeah.
because of her like good attitude and her deep knowledge of the philosophy, and she's just such an animated, wonderful character, you know.
amazing.
And
So
and you just went around with her.
yeah, the
What
first
a
idea
pilgrimage!
that the idea that I had was like, I'm gonna go on one of Raghunath's pilgrimages and I'm gonna do the book there.
Hmm.
But then my schedule and your schedule were never like together, and I'm like,
Yeah,
oh man, I cannot keep up with this. I don't know how I'm gonna do that. And then I thought, look, I saw Leela in the show a bunch of times. Then I started to follow Leela on social media. We interacted two or three times, and then I actually reached out to you. Look, do you think Leela could be a good guide for my
right.
trip? And you said she's the best. Do
Hmm.
it. And
That
If you
that would be
haven't watched
better
any
because
shows, I'm sorry, I was going to say, if you haven't watched any of our podcasts with Leela on them, I think she did two, maybe three. Leela Vilasini, Wisdom of the Sages would be your search. Lilavilas Vilasini, V Vilasini,
velocity.
Sini, Vilasini. I'm sorry. So all right. So you're wandering around What was your first initial take of meandering around Vrindavan? Was it
man,
overwhelming? Was it peaceful? Was it?
no, it was like a cultural shock, like a real cultural shock. Like the first time I had a big cultural shock because I already had been in some Asia countries like Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, but India is something else, and Vrindavan is something else.
Vrindavan is something else.
Something else. And I remember like what you wrote for my book was so cool because as soon as I get in the car that took me from New Delhi to Vrindavan, the guy just got in the car. There was no one around, and the first thing he does is like honks on the horn, like, and I'm like, what? There's no one here. And then he went all like 4 hours, and I said, okay, this is normal here.
This is
And and when we got to Vrindavan, it was just like that. Like I got out of the car and it was like, welcome to Vrindavan. The guy just put his hand on the floor and put his hand on the forehead and did the same to me. And I'm like, all right,
I said the
okay.
same thing in my book. That was exactly what
Exactly.
happened in my book. It's amazing. You had your own little journey home.
Yeah. And so I just got there, like everything was different, like the smells, like the people, the streets, the architecture. It was
Mm,
like overwhelming. I was like, whoa. And then I got to this ashram. I stayed in this ashram in Old Vrindavan. And I was like, okay, Leela was there. And I started to work right away. Like I really wanted to capture it all. It was super hot. Like I went in August, which is like the worst time to go.
That's the best time. One sense you got. Were you there for Krishna Janmastami or Radhastami?
Yeah, so I just got there like 2 days after Janmastami, which was not bad because there wasn't that many people already there because 2 days earlier would be like chaos and
Right.
thousands of people everywhere. But yeah, so Lila took me everywhere. She is amazing, and she got us a little scooter, and she drove like the first day, and then she was like, "You know how to drive? Yeah, so you drive." And so I would drive the scooter, and she would be like on my back, just telling like Krishna Lila all day long, like we're
Like a
going
parrot.
here, we're going there, and this is what happened here and what happened there. And it was amazing. And she was like fundamental to this book happen because she was my translator. She would like bargain with like rickshaw people. She would tell me all the stories. She knows all the important places and everyone in there. And so she took me everywhere, everywhere. So the book is called Vrindavan, but actually I struggled with the name for a while because there's pictures from Govardhan Hill, Varshana, Nandagram, Gokul. We went everywhere. But I wanted to give like a special name to the book, but in the end, I was like, "This is Vrindavan. It's
Sure.
and yeah." So we went all over the place.
Kastuba, I just want to hear some feedback. Just hearing that little explanation. What's your feedback?
Well,
Driving around a scooter with Leela on the back of it,
Leela
telling all the.
Vrindavan is just another level character. She's someone that's, born in Kazakhstan, but her family lived in Vrindavan, and so she grew up a lot of her years in Vrindavan. And I've seen there's certain people it's got to come from a previous life where you just blend right in. I remember once we were standing in the gate of the Radharaman temple with a small group, and she was speaking at length about because that gate opens you up into a little mini gated neighborhood of the priests of the Radharaman temple that are lineages that go back for centuries. This is like a unique little culture there, of
Microculture.
Krishna, yeah, like a microculture of Krishna Bhakti that's specifically, very unique. And she was describing in detail the mood that those people have towards the deity of Radharaman, the deity of Krishna in that temple. And she was saying how this isn't like a deity in a temple for them. This is like their boy. This is like and she was in all kinds of details. She was sharing this, and there were two young men, like in their mid-20s, and they were watching her say all this, and they were from that neighborhood. And the way they're standing on there, they're like really checking out, like, does this person know what they're talking about, or is this person just like speaking out,
Right.
And then when she was done, they just did something that just surprised me. They turned everyone. They said, what she's saying, she's exactly right. She understands. She knows what she's talking about. Like, and so to get that from the Bridge Bosses is unique. You know, she's really learned about Braj culture, and you know, she speaks Hindi and she can get around. And so, yeah, you couldn't find a more perfect or not a charismatic guide than her.
It's the Dham Guru. You need someone like that to introduce you to the holy place, or else we're just sort of like outside of the fish tank, you know, like outside of the aquarium and have no like access in at all. You're just seeing it in a very superficial way. You got to go in there and swim with those fish. And Dham Guru does that. It holds you by the hand and brings you in, and how to worship, how to pray, what your consciousness should be at.
Yeah.
Very, very important.
And she does it with a lot of humor, and she's fun, you know.
Yeah, she's fun. Yeah.
It was amazing because right after the first day, I really had a notion. If she wasn't here, I was all over
be
the place.
lost.
I would be lost. I wouldn't
It would
know.
be totally, yeah, yes.
You know,
And you know,
and
I
with
was
her,
thinking also that if you would have gone on Raghunath's trip, you wouldn't have been able to concentrate fully on the photography.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's Krishna's arrangement.
exactly. I already thought about that because I was totally immersed on photography
Yeah, morning
and
to night, I can imagine.
trying to enjoy like the temples and try to
Feel it.
absorb like some of it without the camera in my hand. So I did like the Vrindavan Parikrama with my friend Parikshit that it's here today too. He was there.
That's right. Yeah.
And we met there and we did the parikrama together. Like we were, I was at the temples most of the days at Mangal Arti, like just being there, like praying and doing my japa and taking pictures. So on the book, you don't see most of those pictures like at those hours. Because I try to have some of those moments to myself,
Nice,
you
good
know,
idea.
and but then I would like our days would start like 3:30, 4 a.m. on the streets of Vrindavan, and I would take pictures around noon, and then we would stop because the heat was unbearable by lunchtime. It was so hot. We would just
I
like
want to do it. I want to do the whole thing over with you for part 2. That
let's
sounds so
go,
good.
let's go.
Let's go. All right.
And so we would stop for lunch, and then around 4 p.m. we would do like the rest of the day, taking pictures on the streets, on the temples, and until around 8, where we would go eat at MVT and then go back to bed. Like by 9, I was like beaten.
All right. So Sega asked me, or Kostuba asked me to read my introduction to the book, and I would like to hear them comment on it while I read it. Is now a good time, Kostub? Just dive into this.
Why not? Sure.
All right. So this is what Sega read. Hey, I really want you to write something for the beginning of the book. So here goes. Here goes. Vrindavan. Have you ever heard the saying, "This person is in this world, but not of this world"? It usually refers to a person who is so absorbed in their spiritual life that although they may be walking and talking in ordinary circles, their internal state is of a spiritual realm. Well, imagine a place that's in this world, but not of this world. I can't explain it, but I've experienced it for sure. I went to Vrindavan when I was 22 years old in 1988. I landed in the old New Delhi airport and took a crazy taxi ride 4 hours south as if I was in a wild video game. We were flying down a one-lane road with crater-like potholes. We'd hit the brakes for occasional herds of goats and water buffalo, and then zip around them on the shoulder. We'd pick up speed again and then have to cut our speed in half just to dodge a horse-drawn cart going a quarter of our speed. Buses with dashboards and grills decorated like sacred temples sped full speeds towards us, appearing like they were about to be a definitive head-on collision. The demolition derby was only avoided at the last moment when the fearless drivers yanked their steering wheels hard to the right without slowing down, barely escaping tragedy. So it was sort of like the last minute. You know that, Costuba. Remember those days, Henry? Remember those days where the last minute they just turn their wheels and you just barely, because there's a one-lane road. All the drivers of every vehicle, and I'm not exaggerating, had one hand on the wheel, right, Sega, and one hand on the horn, making a Morse code of constant beeping, a sonic cacophony
All the time.
all the time. The buses blew their piercing air horns, adding to my anxiety. After the 7th or 8th time of the head-on game of chicken, I was witnessing where I felt my life was in great danger. I figured this must be business as usual here, and I calmed down. They are trained professionals, right? It's India. What could go wrong? But this was a spiritual trip. I was no thrill seeker. Where was the peace? The peace of mind, the ease. I didn't get it. This was chaos. When I pulled into Vrindavan, my taxi cab driver, who could have driven for NASCAR, I think that's a typo on my part, transformed into a holy man. He touched the earth reverentially, then touched his forehead, leaving little sand prints on his third eye and eyebrows. Sri Vrindavan Dham, he announced in broken English. You have arrived, sir. He bobbled his head left to right, reaffirming his words. He then picked up some of the sacred sand from the road and delicately sprinkled it on my head, and then his own. Brajaraj, he spoke, the dust of Vrindavan. Krishna still walks here. He still plays here. Every particle of dust is sacred here. For the next few months, while I lived in this holy place, I watched the magic unfold. Vrindavan, they say, is not a tirtha, or a place of purification, like many hallowed places in India. It is said that Vrindavan is Krishna's home, magically manifested on earth. But to see it, you must develop spiritual vision. The vision is earned through the surrender of the ego and the desire to give instead of taking. If the pilgrim has the mood of love and service, this bud of a holy land begins to blossom into a spectacular scented flower, into a bouquet. I've seen it happen time and time again in the past 36 years I've been visiting. Something affects the pilgrim or visitor in a deep way they can't describe. It's nothing external, like a beach or a sunset, architecture, or a pristine waterfall. Not at all. It's something of a shift in perspective and a deep mystical love affair happening on a subtle plane of existence. A love affair with God in his most personal form. Young Krishna, the embodiment of love, who's not merely described as omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent, as Merriam-Webster would describe the definition of God. Krishna is all that, yes, but this form of God is off-duty in a playful, fun, naughty, adorable, romantic form. This is the concept of the absolute truth in Vrindavan, and people worship him along with his consort Radha, a young cowherd girl, using song, dance, cooking delicious food, drama, temple worship. Some people go to this village and vow never to leave. Some people go and must return again and again. People go, and if they get the taste of bhakti, grand, extravagant things of this material world become puny and insignificant in their eyes. This phenomenon has been happening for millennia. Before we finish this, you want to share anything about that, Kastuba? I'm sure you've met people, or I'm sure your own situation. You go to Vrindavan and like, what am I doing with my mind? What am I doing with my thoughts? What am I doing with my life?
Yeah, you know, honestly, as you were reading, I was thinking Vrindavan is such a mystery. The way that it can affect someone, the way that some person may arrive and be totally oblivious to it. The way that a person may arrive and be oblivious to it, but it still penetrates in them and they don't even understand why. The way that there are people that understand it and they live it and they go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into it. It's like no other place.
If they go there with the right mood, and something
Yeah.
happens to them. I mean, and we've met people who've gone there who literally have looked at the deity and said, "I will never leave this place." It's like I can't understand that.
And you know what's cool that I would my intention going there was like I'm going to do a photo book, like an art thing, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to do like beautiful photos. On the first day, I knew that I was doing a document for the devotees, for to present this transcendental place on some form that I didn't know what would be yet, but I knew that these people, these landscapes, the temples, everything where I'm looking at, it's sacred. And as you said, it's hard to explain this. It's out of the material world. Like you cannot explain that. It's a feeling that you get when you're there. I don't think I have words for it.
You know, it's interesting they say because I can see you have a special talent for portrait photography.
Mm,
And if anyone that looks at the cover, it's an incredible portrait
yeah.
of a man that we knew. Never spoke with him because he didn't speak English, but
Yes.
it feels like he was a brother or like a uncle or something like that.
We'd
Sridhar,
we'd regularly go to his house, and
which was out in the flower fields of Vrindavan. In the
yeah, and he'd
little
make
hut.
us rotis and dal, and we'd sit there with our groups. And he passed away recently. Special soul, though. Special soul
And
with
that's why it's on the cover because Leela took me there. She said, "I'm going to take you to this special soul home. You'll see he's amazing." And we went there, and it was kind of a heartbreaking uh, sight because like 3 or 4 months earlier, they had in Vrindavan like this huge flood, and it destroyed all these flower fields.
oh,
Mm.
And I
really?
guess he was, yeah, I guess he was sick, and that probably made him sick,
Oh,
you know.
until he passed.
Huh.
And because he lost everything, and it would take like 2 years to recover all the
Um,
flowers because he sold the flowers for the temples.
right.
and
Mm,
and so he took me in his home. Like his home was like the simplest home ever been, you know. Even it already had still had the marks of the water where it came,
waterline.
you know.
Wow.
It was incredible. And even like that, they just like, please sit, have some food. They invited me to their home like as if I was like their family, and it was incredible. And yeah,
Well,
Lila always like translating. We had like a conversation with Lila translating, and it was amazing.
when I saw the cover of the book, I thought, oh, what a nice tribute to him
Yes.
that he appeared on the
Mm.
cover. Because what a perfect embodiment of what Vrindavan is. But when you asked me to write something, and you showed us the like the PDF files or whatever, so that we could see it, and it was always these pictures, like on one page, like it would be 2 pages, like the book was open. One page was like a photo of a temple altar,
Mm.
and then next to it would be like a portrait of a devotee in Vrindavan. And that devotee might be like a woman in a sari with her hands folded, at her chest. And it just occurred to me that like there's the temple or the temple altar, which is like uh, which is like the presence of Krishna within a certain form. And then I looked at the devotee and I said, their body is a temple, right? It's like you could see that they had Krishna within them, and their body was just a form, just like the temple.
Mm.
And that's what I chose to write on. Is just I think I never saw it so clearly as when you juxtaposed it again and again and again
Yeah, I'm gonna
in
show you
in these
like
pages.
an example. Like here,
Yes, just like that, right? So you see it. You see an altar on the left where, okay, there's a frame, and then there's an ornate seat, and then there's the deity. And is that the deity of? I think that's what do they call him? Dom, not Dameshwara. Is it Dameshwara? I'm
I
forgetting now.
can't see.
Yeah, I can't. I forgot most of the temples.
Mahaprabhu. Oh, Ami and Nimai, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then right next to it, there's a person, and you can just see Krishna's, just the way Krishna's lit up on the altar, like Krishna's kind of lit up in that person and shining from them. And I just felt it again and again, the way that you captured it. It must, it's, if anyone else just goes and tries to capture it, your skills as a photographer made it possible for you to really capture what's there, and what you might feel when you talk to that person or have an opportunity to see that person live at greater length, but you managed to capture that in one frame. And I thought it was a very, very powerful message that came through.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny because I took a bunch of pictures. Like it wasn't that many, but probably like 5,000 pictures to like edit and then get 200, you know?
Right, right.
Sure.
And when I started to edit the book, like putting the pictures like side to side and to see what's my story here, where am I gonna go? And it's funny because after when I saw your text, you just wrote what I thought, which is like everyone in Vrindavan is like part and parcel of God, you know?
Mm.
And the deity and the people next to each other, it makes sense. So that's how I started like to put the deities on one side, the person on the other side,
Mm.
you know? And started to form like a narrative like that. And
Mm.
I really started to love it like that, and I'm like, okay, this is the way that I'm going to do it, because the portraits were like my main thing, and I would just picture like take pictures of people going on the street. I would go like, Lila, I got to take that picture of that man over there. Go and talk to him. And she would go like, and she would like explain, this is a Portuguese guy doing a book about Vrindavan, and he wants to take your picture. Would you accept it? And it was like, okay. Most of them like super like serious,
Yeah.
just posed in front of me, and I like 2 3 minutes I would just take their pictures, and I'm like, thank you so much.
Photographer's dream come true, that the person you're shooting is just completely cooperative and just standing there, not
yes,
even making a crazy face, just
nothing.
beautifully. Yeah,
There was like probably 5 people that said no because they were in a hurry. Otherwise, they would say yes.
Mm.
sure.
Everyone was super like, and most people like asked me questions like, what, why, what are you doing? How, and then, oh, can I take a selfie, please? And most of them wanted to take selfies with me because I was like the only white guy in the middle of
Mm.
everywhere. Like it was
Um,
me and Lila. Um,
right.
and yeah, so it was incredible, like seeing the portraits, and I had this little light. I'm gonna share on my social media like some backstage photos, like me with a little light, like Lila would hold the light, and then I had my camera, and I would like try to direct the person in front of me, and I would just take the picture. And I'm like, this light is beautiful. That's it. And
Mm.
so I had so many portraits that I knew that those were going to be like the foundation of the book. Then I had the landscapes, and then I had the deities. And I had to figure out a way to put it all together. And as I heard like Raghunath say here in the podcast so many times, like about his music and most of his things, like, oh, I think it wasn't me doing it. This is one of those things. I think it was,
Mm.
I was, there was some force behind me just directing me and showing me the way very
Sure.
naturally. I didn't struggle at all to put it all together, and very quickly I knew that this was the way, this was how it should be presented, and I just followed like my intuition, and it's here. I'm so happy.
That's the Krishna flow of it all. And this whole experience of you go to Vrindavan and it gets stunned and Krishna takes over. That happened, we read the story about Radha Swami. He goes to it's all over India, then he comes to Vrindavan and something resonates with him in a very deep way. But it happened to famous Acharya, Hit Hari Vamsa. Of course, Lord Chaitanya came to Vrindavan, Rupa Goswami, all the great saints, Mirabai comes to Vrindavan. It's one of these places that sort of change you forever. And it's, as I was like saying, it's like not like God, how it's described in a Judeo-Christian or Abrahamic tradition, but it's God in this adorable, off-duty, naughty, lover, romantic, playful, toddler, and it's overwhelming. You can't even dream this concept up of God. And I feel like you caught it, Sega. And we have a big community here. We want to support this book. How can Mara just put your Instagram account on the message board, and we'll put it in the show notes. But how can people get this book, and can we get it before Christmas
Yeah.
for the holidays if people want to give it? If you have a person that's into bhakti, what a great gift.
Yes, so I ship it worldwide. So it's going to be shipped from Portugal. Of course, you guys have to pay the shipping, but it's not that much. And so I have like a big cartel store that I made specially for this. It's called goodlookproducts.bigcartel.com. Mara just posted on the chat board. Yeah, my Instagram, it's Segadaes, and there I share all the info about the book. On the store, I also have some prints for sale from the
Oh,
book.
very cool. Very
If
cool.
someone wants
Oh,
to
yeah,
have
right,
like
that's nice.
a picture framed in their home, like I send the print and for not that much money. So it's a good way to help out all the costs that I had with the book. This is a self-published thing. Like I put all the money myself. Like there's no publisher behind it. And yeah, so that's the way people can get
Great.
it through the store, and or they can DM me. And right now I have like a special discount code for the
Thank
wisdom of
you.
community, and I'm gonna type it because it's super easy, but I'm gonna type it so it stays on the chat board, and maybe Mara then could share it later. But it's use the wisdom of the sages 108. If you put
Okay.
that on
Oh,
WOTS or Wisdom of the Sages.
no, WOTS 108.
That's my password for all my bank accounts.
All right, let's get rich then. and,
Oh,
and
You
so
know, Phil D posted that photo one of the two photos that you shared of of an elderly sadhu. He's got his hand in his bright
it's one of my
yellow
favorite
bead bag.
photos. Yeah.
It's like you can just see the quality of that image. It's just incredible. It is something you would want to frame and put on your wall and think about it. Meditate. This is a book, people get photography books and maybe you look at them once or twice and they sit on the shelf, but this is a book that I could see every photo has the potential to spend a long time with,
yeah.
meditate on, think about, try to feel,
Yeah, that's what I really think about the book. First of all, one thing that it was amazing for me was like looking at these pictures for so long, editing it. It's like a visual meditation, like all the time. But
Yeah.
now that exists, whoever gets it, people that never went, they can have a feeling of how it is. People that are used to go there, they can look at it and feel I'm there again.
Right.
So
Oh,
it's
good.
a very beautiful visual meditation about this special
Right,
place.
right. Yeah. Just to feel anybody that's been there, you want to feel what it's like to be there just when you're sitting in your home.
Yeah, it's
Mm.
true. And I just want to share a little thing because I know we're almost out of time. What this is making me do. So I started to do some press here in Portugal because of the book.
Yeah.
And now I'm all over the radios and newspapers just talking about Bhakti Yoga, which
Awesome.
is insane. I never thought this would be happening one day in my life, and it's amazing. Like I'm doing like Krishna Kata, like for real, you know, and it's
That's great.
incredible. I'm so happy.
And when you engage your talents in the service of Krishna, you'll do it more and more and more and more. And it's so beautiful to see you do this. Everybody on the show that's sort of started to dovetail what they naturally do, but now in Krishna's service, we saw it with Thomas Essig in his film, and we see it, of course, with Mara with their cooking, and Bobby with their cooking and her yoga teaching, and Sita and Lori Pag. It's beautiful watching people take their regular life and all of a sudden just pivoting little towards light, truth, love, and sweet baby Krishna. And magic starts to happen more and more and more. Really proud of you, really inspired by what you're doing, Prabhu. And I
Uh,
want everybody in our community to go out, get this book for the holidays, and just support a community member. This is what we want to do. If we like to support people who have their heart in the right place, and want to thank you for being part of this community.
Oh man, thank you. I really, this book wouldn't exist if it wasn't for you guys. That's for sure. You're a major inspiration. You're the source of all of my knowledge. I have no, like, the Bhakti community in Portugal is almost non-existent. So I don't have many devotees friends, and you are my community.
I'll be
And
your friend.
I know, thankfully. And,
You know,
and
from yeah, go ahead. Please finish.
yeah, and you helped me a lot, like doing this. You know, this book just exists because of you. That's for sure.
Prabhu. I
That's
think I'm
nice.
going
I
to
was
write
seeing
Leela
Celine.
Bilasini.
I
Go
was
on.
seeing Celine from your sage, from that sage group that you were talking about, the original sage group where the idea came up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
But most
she's
most of them,
saying,
they
yeah,
witness.
yeah, she's saying, I remember so well when you're talking about it in the sage group, and then went to Vrindavan. It is amazing to see the book now. So happy for you.
Yeah, it's incredible how it's materialized. I'm speechless. I'm sometimes I'm look at it like, is this real?
Mm,
You know,
that's so
like
nice.
how it's here. So it's I'm so happy. Yeah, yeah, and yeah. Please support me buying books. As Raghunath says, it's Christmas. Double it.
Double
Double
it.
it. Yeah, don't get one, get two. You're going to order it from
Double it.
Portugal, get two of them.
And yeah, support me with the prints on my social media. Just share my reels that I posted, like talking about the book, like my like marketing stuff, like doing on the social media. Just share, even if you don't
Yeah.
uh, find a way to buy the book. Just share to
Yeah, it's
your
all
your feed.
DIY stuff trying to support a community member. So if we can do it in an organic way, we're behind it. Thanks, Sega, for coming on. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And thanks for this beautiful community that keeps growing and thriving and creating and expressing their talents in beautiful service. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.
Oh,
Thank you so
that's
much.
my
Hare
cue, huh?
Krishna. It's a beautiful day for a beautiful day. Let the magic continue to flow. Harry Bol.